Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Broman Clash, and tonight I'm going to talk about three topics that particularly caught my eye. Well, one of them being just a topic that I've known all so well because I worked in retail at it. But the other two topics were pretty interesting in the fact that it was also talking about, the Black Lives Matter struggle and overall how the way things are not what they seem. And one of the topics, which was inspired by the RantKid, watch his channel on Black Friday. You will learn a thing or two about, his opinions on Black Friday. 6 minutes of brilliance. Watch it, and then you will notice that, let me first talk over about Black Friday. And honestly, Black Friday is how I would say it, a day where people get their barbarian on and just try to, overall just wreak havoc, just trying to get the latest deals and overall the latest tech. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a bit of a tech man myself, but I'm not going to try to bash somebody's head in just for a damn TV or like a DVD player or a Blu-ray player. Like that ain't worth it. That's not worth it. But, to be fair and to be honest, I understand it's a sale and some of you want to get it, but you can wait some other day. You can wait until like Cyber Monday where it's safe in your own home. But yet, Black Friday that I've noticed brings out like the animal in people, like the consumerism, the consumerist, the materialistic, the destructive materialistic nature of, what humanity is all about. That's something that I've noticed, and it's pretty sad because it goes back to this quote: things are meant to be used and people are meant to be loved. The reason why the world's in the state that it's in is because people are loving things and using people. Hence why it's so destructive. Now, with Black Friday, you actually see that because they're using people, they're bashing people upside their heads just for a damn deal, just for a damn TV. And then, people getting hurt to the point that they have a death toll. Like I mentioned before, watch the grandkid, he'll talk about it, in 6 minutes, but they're great 6 minutes of your life, trust me. And the way he talks about it, and the way I'm going to talk about it is the fact that in the mind of, it goes back to this quote: we try to buy things that we don't need to impress people that we don't like with money that we don't have. Think about it. Now, how does this all tie into Black Friday? Well, the whole notion of, compulsive shopping and, overall just trying to feel good inside, but yet at the same time, you're not good inside due to the fact that, material wealth and material goods are not going to satisfy what the human heart needs, which is love, compassion, understanding, and unity. And on plus no wisdom. Yet on Black Friday, all that gets thrown out. All those get thrown out of the window because everybody's trying to get the latest deals, the latest TV, which has been made into like some bullshit ass factory in China or some shit. Basically where people are working for slave wages, even though slaves never made wages because they work for free. And these people work in hard conditions. Yet we're doing it and we're getting overpriced shit for a fucking deal. And yet there are people out there being killed out in the streets. There are people being brutalized by the cops. There are pointless wars being fought. And yet there are good people being silenced. There are revolutionaries being killed. And yet you want to go on for a fucking deal. Yes, I know cursing is unprofessional, all that other bullshit, like I said in my other videos. But, fuck this. I'm just going to keep it real with you. I'm going to keep it off. I'm going to keep it right. Black Friday is overall just bullshit. Because, come on, man. I understand that some people, they may want a certain item Matter of fact, it goes back to KRS-One. And during his Boogie Down production days, when he made a song called Material Love. And he said, it's all right to want. He said, it's all right to want or want to get a material item. But when you start scheming on and carrying on for it, just remember, it's going to get you. And that was called Material Love. Love's going to get you. Listen to that song. And it talks about the deadly effects of, of what consumerism can do. Especially when you read about the Grinch and you think about the whole consumerism, materialistic kind of thing, and how the way consumerism basically destroys not only the compassion in humanity, but also the psyche of what's morally right and wrong. To the point, some people steal from other people, kill other people. I mean, even South Park did like an episode of it. Even though, South Park is well known for satire, but sometimes satire can reveal a certain degree of truth. And for that matter, I mentioned about, police killings, police brutality, and overall just how many lives are being lost while people are trying to focus on, what's been going on, with Black Friday deals. And I know I'm late to the party in saying this, but I also want to talk about two other topics that are mainly important and which kind of encompasses, the whole human psyche. And you know what that is? What's been going on in Minneapolis and what's been going on in New York. And unless you've been not been paying attention or you have not been noticed or you do not know, which is okay because, people can come out of ignorance. But yet, I was reading up on certain articles and I was looking at certain things, and you want to know what the real sad part is the fact that in Minneapolis, there was a young man by the name of Laquan McDonald. And what happened to him was the fact that the officer shot him 16 times, and, shooting a young man who's 16 years old to the point of being 17, he hasn't even experienced adulthood yet. I mean, don't look at me, I'm actually 20 years old. I haven't experienced adulthood yet, but that's besides the point. But it's just that his life was in it on a misunderstood note to the point that it's pointless. Like, cops are willing to commit violent crimes against people, and 1 year later, justice still has not been served. People are protesting against it because justice needs to be served for this young man whose life has been lost, like, for no apparent fucking reason, because there are other people who commit violent, traffic infractions here and there, and yet cops don't need to kill them. And yet, I read something, and it was talking about how the way there are so-called white supremacists, and the cops didn't do anything. I believe that they were just cops in disguise. Seriously, that's what I think they are. They're just cops in disguise, and the cops who were in uniform didn't do anything because they felt like, oh man, they're just infiltrating, which typically some cops do just to disrupt the movement. And these were peaceful protesters in Minneapolis who, in essence, were doing the right thing. They were not causing any problems. They were spreading an awareness, freedom of speech, and definitely talking about a topic that needs to be talked about, and that is police brutality, the unfair treatment of African people in America, and the overall stigma. And to tell you the truth, it becomes real sad when you realize, like, yo, wait a minute, these people are actually doing nothing wrong. And yet you got like 5 white supremacists trying to shoot people, and the cops did nothing. Put 2 and 2 together, you can come up with 2 conclusions. 1, the cops either didn't know, thus making them incompetent, or 2, the cops were in cahoots with them. Now, if they were in cahoots with them, then it shows that the police force, along with any other politician or what's going on in Minneapolis, don't really care about their citizens. And what makes things really interesting was what Anonymous did. And what Anonymous did was the fact that they hacked into the profiles of certain politicians and police officers. And guess what they found out? They found out that a certain amount of politicians and police officers were actually KKK members. Now, if you put those three dots together, you'll find out a very not interesting story, but just an old tale with a modern twist. Think about it. Like, if you know your history, if you know your American history, you know the fact that races have always been in positions of power. They never let people who had no power or who look different from them not get any type of power at all. Now, this is where things get real interesting. Because with that realization and also with that, with that knowledge, people honestly are not going to trust the cops. And for these white supremacists to come in and attack them for no reason. And the cops stood there and do nothing. And the protesters had to do something. It makes you wonder that, the cops really don't care about the people. They only care about an arrest quota. And then let me go on topic to talk about what's been going on in New York. Now, what was interesting in New York was the fact that there was also a bit of a movement going on over there. It was at the 4th Precinct, which was like yesterday night on Wednesday night. Now, what was interesting about that was the fact that I know some of those people. And honestly, just by them standing up and actually speaking, people felt threatened. The law officers in general, they felt threatened. Because, the ego's getting bruised and all that shit, man. That's funny. If you have a fragile ego and not a very, and your mind is so stagnant on towards, on borderline isolation, join the cops. You'll find like-minded individuals. I know not all cops are like that, but give it a break. And then looking at that and how to weigh a peaceful protest where people are basically talking and giving out and speaking out and giving their points of views on what is wrong with the system and what is overall wrong with, not life itself, but mainly life in America. The prison school to prison pipeline was going on, with young American Africans in the states, especially towards those in elementary school, and how the way they're being taught in bogus ways, and then growing up and becoming just nothing more than just a statistic instead of a person or a hopeful. That's what they were going against. And for them to get arrested and for, the cops to act so unprofessionally, which is very typical, unprofessionally and very scared over some bullshit, not bullshit in terms of the movement, but just their actions, the cops' actions. That's the actions I'm talking about. I mean, come on. People were not in a riot. People were not, throwing cars around like they would do at like a Rangers game or at like when their team loses or when their team wins. I don't see cops in riot gears trying to toss people, trying to put people in jail when they should. But yeah, ironically, they want to put young people in jail because they're standing up for a cause. Makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, it becomes real sad when people who are not savvy or who don't really understand what's been going on in terms of movements, in terms of what's going on with student life, and also what's been going on with young people's lives. It's young people's lives, adult lives, black lives, poor white lives, Asian lives, native lives, brown lives. You catch my drift, man. overall people's lives are being attacked, and yet nobody seems to care. But when it comes right down to like red Starbucks cups and Black Friday, they care. That's funny to me, man. It really is. I understand, like I said before about Black Friday, I understand that you want to get a good deal. But like, yo, man, is it really worth it in killing another life? Especially during this year, where this year it started off with the death of somebody, and it's more than likely going to end with the death of somebody. You know how sad that is? Like this year started off with somebody dying, and then it's going to end with somebody dying. I mean, man, and what's been going on in Minneapolis, you gotta also keep a watch out for like fake protesters, people who just try to hype up a movement, try to hype up a peaceful protest into like a riot or something. You gotta watch out for anarchists, not true anarchists, because true anarchy means freedom from oppression or freedom from not from rules, but from oppressive ways. Now, people really think that anarchy means lawlessness. Not entirely. You can be disciplined and be an anarchist. Be careful of those radical anarchists. And also be careful of integrationalists, people who want to integrate themselves into a movement but have no intentions on helping. Yeah, you gotta be careful of those kind of people as well. And then coming off of that and talking about, the various type of people, well, even though I talked about two types, there are other types you need to worry about, especially undercover cops who are willing to upset a peaceful protest into a riot by causing intentional trouble. And I mentioned before that what happened in Minneapolis was the fact that, those might have been either undercover cops or they may have been white supremacists that the cops supported. And the cops let them go while the people were just peacefully protesting over what happened with Laquan McDonald. And yet, this is spreading an awareness of what's been going on. Some people may say for decades, other people may say for centuries. But depending on who you are, it's been going on for quite some time. And I know that's an understatement. And yet, Black Friday, people are, shopaholics. They want to get the latest deals. They want to trample over people, all that other bullshit, man. Honestly, I'm going to keep it real. I'm down with Mr. Louis Farrakhan. I'm down with him saying, like, not one dime goes into Black Friday. And not one dime goes into Christmas. Boycott Christmas, boycott Black Friday. And if y'all boycotting and spreading awareness, good for y'all. But if y'all buying something, I'm not going to knock it. All right? If you need something for your family or if you need something from school and you got it on a cheap deal, then by all means, that's all you. But if you're doing it just to show off or you're doing it just so your materialistic side, then guess what? I give you a big old fuck you. Yeah, that's right. Just a fuck you. And you're doing it just to show how superior you are? That's bullshit. And then, like I mentioned before, and what happened with New York, and you got peaceful protesters being arrested, being brutalized for also talking up and standing up about a certain situation. Now, like I mentioned before, I know some of those people. They didn't deserve that, especially when they were in the right. They were doing the right thing. Yet people who are under the law, which is probably just a modern day saying like, oh, I'm doing God's will. If you think about it, they ain't no damn better than the damn bouncers. Yet, it's just sad, people gonna hurt people over materialistic goods But yet when it comes right down to a crime or an injustice, they want to look good in front of people, but yet they don't want to do good. That's not good at all. And honestly, I know I sound like a preacher and all that bullshit, but look, I'm just giving you my take on these three situations. And and it's real sad because, like, come on. There are young people's lives who are getting killed every day. Yet nobody's going to talk about that. But yet you got commercials and shit talking about, yo, Black Friday deals, talking about putting on Christmas and the beginning of November. Shit, you might as well put Christmas in November and just say, fuck December. That's just winter. Seriously, like, think about it. That's sad. And Thanksgiving, especially with its history, really doesn't spread a positive message either. I understand it's about togetherness, but the way it started, it was no better. That was just a bit of a mention. But overall, to the people in New York and Minneapolis, I want to say keep on fighting the good fight and keep on doing the right thing. And remember, Roman Clash got your back. And stay up, be up, and do the right thing, all right? And those who need Black Friday in order to afford cheaper deals, then do you. But if you're doing it just to show off and all that bullshit, fuck you. Because you're not really helping anything except to your own greed and ego, which is not good. That YouTube, this is Grown Man Class, signing out one at one. And if you agree with all I said, then you agree. If you disagree, then you disagree. But honestly, just to keep it real, love you all. You love some of my enemies. And truth be told, hope you have a great one. And I know it's late. Have a good Friday. Later.